Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. Today, we are reacting to Tasha K's interview with Martell Holt's side dish, with Martell Holt's side piece, with Martell Holt's coleslaw, with Martell Holt's mistress, Miss Arionne Curry. And it was a hot mess express, as I expected it to be, as I anticipated it to be. First and foremost, why Tasha K is trying to make Arionne Curry look presentable, look respectable, that she's only allowed to be called a quote-unquote mistress, that is disrespectful to call her a side piece or a side chick. Are you serious right now? Aren't you married, Tasha K? Like, what are you talking about? There is no respect for a woman who is knowingly having an affair with a married man. There is no respect for that. So why are you trying to dress up Arionne and make her look like she deserves sympathy, she deserves to be respected, she deserves to be treated right? And then Arionne's going on that, Love and Marriage Huntsville, they're using her likeness, they're milking her for a storyline, they're using a false narrative on her behalf. Arionne, your baby's father, Martel, he's the one that's calling you a peasant on national television. He's the one that is asking you for a DNA test on national television. That has nothing to do with anything regarding the show or Melody Holt or anything. For some reason, Arionne Curry is obsessed with Melody Holt, and I do not understand why. And it got to a point where she was scared when Tasha K was about to call Melody Holt to ask her some questions. And Arionne, she bucked up and she was like, oh, no, and got her phone out, like as if she was about to, tell somebody that Tasha K was about to call Mel. So that told me right there that Arionne was full of it this entire interview. And they can't get the timelines right. That was another issue I had with Tasha K, was can we get the timelines right? Can we get the ages right? Can we get the actual allegations and the correct questions together? Like, is that too much to ask? You don't know how old the girl is. You don't know how long the affair was. It's 6 years, it's 7 years. She's 24, she's 30, she's 31. Like, can we get factual information before the interview? Is that too much to ask? Would it hurt for you to have like an iPad or a sheet of paper of what questions you were going to ask? And in the event Arionne revealed something interesting, you would ask her a follow-up? Like, for instance, when you asked her, basically how all this started, and she said that she met Martel at his cousin's barbecue or some type of event at a cousin's house, and a friend of hers took her there. And essentially, Arionne gave her phone number to Martel's cousin, and she gave Arionne's number to Martel, and Martel called her 5 minutes later, and they met out at the car, and she thought that they were going to go to the hotel and have sex within the first few minutes of meeting. But then you're claiming that nothing sexual happened until 9 months later. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I think something sexual happened right off the jump. I truly do. I don't believe anything that Arionne is saying, because she's trying to romanticize this for some reason and make it seem as though, oh, we were friends for nearly a year, and, then it became physical, like, we were committing ourselves to each other, and then we had 6 years of, just bliss and just amazingness. We had everything but the marriage. No, you were a side chick. You were a side piece. You were not, there's nothing to romanticize about this, like, at all. At all. And then I felt it was unprofessional of Tasha K. She was talking about how she's done an interview with Melody Holt, and that Melody Holt was terrified or scared or whatever. I felt that was completely inappropriate, completely out of bounds, and it just really felt like she was trying to put down Melody Holt for some reason to lift up Arionne Curry, and I just wasn't here for it. I was not feeling it at all. I felt it was disrespectful, it was inappropriate, it was out of bounds, it was unnecessary. And so, Arionne, she's still going on that, that the show is profiting, off of her, and that, they're milking everything. They're milking the marriage that no longer exists, and that they're profiting off of her on purpose. And, essentially she was obsessed the whole time about, Melody. And so she basically goes into her story that, she's from Dayton, Ohio. She went to college in Huntsville. And essentially, that's where she met her first child's father. Met him right off the bat, freshman night at a t-shirt party. And then they were together ever since for 5 years, allegedly. And then she tries to claim that Martel was into her because she's quote unquote young, spicy, and smart. Really? You're smart? Because you didn't know a lot of things. You didn't know how to say influential. You didn't know what a two-parent household meant. You kept saying you grew up in a two-parent household, and then you said your parents were never married, and that your dad had a wife until he didn't, and then you lived with your mom. That means you grew up, you were raised by a single mother. That's what that means. A two-parent household means two parents live in the same house. The two parents are married. You are being raised by two people who live in the same household as you. It was just the ignorance for me. It was just the ignorance and the stupidity for me that I couldn't take any of this seriously. And then she's trying to describe herself that, she didn't have all this time to commit to Martel because she was working full time and she was in nursing school and was already a single mom, but she couldn't even get nursing school right. She said that, I had class and I had this and that, but couldn't get, clinicals right, couldn't get lab right, couldn't get that, I don't know, you had to take exams, you had to do group presentations, you had to actually have clinicals where you are taking care of patients as if you are a student nurse. Like, did that not ring a bell to you? Like, did you only go to one semester of nursing school? Like, it was so embarrassing, and I'm so glad that Arionne Curry is not a nurse and did not follow through with nursing school. Oh my gosh. The ignorance was just too much for me. It was just too much. It was an embarrassment is what it was. And an insult to people who are in the healthcare industry, who are nurses. Like, it was just a hot mess express. I was like, please do not discuss this anymore because you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even sound like you went to nursing school. You sound like you just quickly Googled what happens in nursing school. That's what it sounded like. I just couldn't take her seriously. Then I had an issue with Tasha K because she had the nerve to say that Arionne looks like the chocolate version of Melody Holt, but more fun. And I was like, are you serious right now? They look nothing alike. Are you kidding me right now, Tasha K? There is nothing alike about these two women. These women couldn't be any more opposites of one another. Melody is respectful, she's gorgeous, she's professional, she is doing her own thing. This lady is uncouth, she is trifling, she is disrespectful, she's trash, she is inappropriate. And, Tasha K was trying to say they were like sisters. It was just too much. It was absolutely too much. And then Arionne tried to downplay her quote unquote spiciness and said, out of all of my friends, I'm the most conservative. I'm not some sexual being. Hello, that's what Martel said about you on the show. Martel was the one that talked you up to be this sex goddess that did all of these sexual acts with him. That's Martel, your baby's father. And see, that's why I know Arionne is brainwashed by Martel, because she refuses to say anything bad about Martel even now. Even after he's called her a peasant, even after he has basically reduced her to, some sex pot on national television, she will not disrespect this man. She will not come for this man. She only has smoke for Melody Holt and Oprah. Those seem to be the people she has beef with, two black women. And not the black man who put her out there. She sounds completely brainwashed by Martel and thinks that this interview is somehow going to rebrand her and make her look respectable. And it just made her look like a liar. It just made her look 100 times worse. Um, so anyways, like I said, she reiterated a few times that they were only friends for 9 months, that they only talked on the phone for several hours, and this and that. But like I said, I just don't buy it. And Tasha K missed a huge moment, like I said earlier, to follow up and ask, okay, what exactly happened intimate wise? Were they sexting? Was there any type of sexual act that took place? And she didn't do that follow up. And I felt that was an error on her part. And then, they were trying to get into, well, maybe Arionne was attracted to the fact that Martel was older, and then Tasha K got wrong how much older Martel was. She said Martel was like 12 or 13 years older than Arionne, when Arionne confirmed that he was 9 years older. And it's like, I just kept saying, where is the research? Where is the investigation? Where is the facts? like Tasha doesn't have the facts, and neither does Arionne. So this interview was a wash, like, to begin with. Nobody seems to have the truth in this interview, which is why it's a waste of time. It was a waste of an hour or however long it was. Oh my gosh. And so, Arionne, she's trying to dress herself up once again, claiming she has a good heart, that quote unquote just got caught up in a situation. And I'm like, oh, really? You just happened to get caught up. And then the smoking gun, she claims that she found out Martel was married at some point during their 9 months of just being friends and having long conversations. So you knew before things got intimate that Martell Holt was married, and you still chose to sleep with the married man. And that's not the same energy that you've given on previous lives and previous interviews. You made it seem like you had no clue until a certain point. Then she says that, she kept wanting to reiterate that Martel was the one that was obsessed with her, that called her back to back to back to back, and, claims, and then she had to like redirect her story and claim that, oh, well, Mel didn't find out anything until after, we started having sex or whatever. And it was just like, I could just see the lies and the way that Arionne would look away at certain questions, that she was trying to, redirect and restate certain things to make it seem less incriminating than what it already was. And it's like, sleeping with a married man, there is no way to dress it up and make you seem likable. Like, it doesn't work like that. And, so at this point, Tasha's talking about how she wanted to do this interview because she felt that Arionne, she's been doing all these lives and doing all these interviews, but not really saying much. And then they talked about the recorded conversation that they had that leaked, and Tasha K was hyping it up because it got like over 1 million views or whatever. And it was just a hot mess. And so then Arionne said that Martel told her that he felt guilty about what he was doing to Melody, what he was putting her through at first. And I was surprised that Tasha K didn't ask a follow-up question after that. I mean, once again, missed opportunity. Then Arionne claims, and see, this is where the lies keep coming. So she claims she never asked Martel to leave Melody until she realized that Martel wouldn't leave her alone. What? What are you talking about? But then she said in an argument, why don't you leave your wife? Why don't you leave Melody? Why don't you stop fooling with her? So which is it? If you never asked Martel to leave Melody, but then in different arguments you had with him, you said, why don't you just leave your wife? Or if this is so bad, why don't you leave Melody or whatever? Like, I just don't understand this girl at all. And so, again, she just wants to hear what she wants to hear, and she wants to leave out certain portions of the affair to make herself sound good. And she tries to make it seem as though, this was a love story. And, she claims that she wants to take accountability for continuing a relationship with a married man, but she refuses to apologize to Melody. She refuses to say anything respectable about Melody. And it's just awful. And then she goes into that, Martel's good to her, that he wined and dined her. And Tasha K's trying to ask for specifics, like, did he buy you purses? Did he buy you a car? Did he pay your bills? Like, what did he do? And Arionne, she's like, well, the material things didn't matter. And it's like, but you bragged on this any other time. You bragged on social media that Martel spent, $5,000 of Mel's money on you. And didn't Tasha say that you guys had matching BMWs on the show? Like, we know all about the lavishness. And then she said that, they were good friends, and that, Martel was her, the only person she felt she had in her life, that when there was nobody else. And she, and Tasha K asked, okay, is this, continuous? Was this a continuous thing for like the last 6 or 7 years? And she's like, no, there would be months at a time that we would go without talking. Sometimes 5 months at a time without talking. Sometimes 3 months at a time without talking. And this and that. But the timelines were just a train wreck for this interview. So that's on that. So then once again, we are back to, trying to romanticize this, that, oh, if you dealt with somebody this long, then that means that you've been in love. And Tasha K was trying to think from the wife perspective, like, if you're a wife and you're a mother, like, what did you do that your husband was cheating and this and that no woman deserves to be cheated on. And Arionne was saying basically that he would complain. And, then there was another issue with the dates. Like I said, was it 2015 or was it later? And then Arionne wanted to discuss the reunion that just aired, the 3-part reunion that she seems to know about, even though she claims she doesn't watch the show. And she claims that filming did not want people to know how long the affair was. And she was upset that people found out who she was, but it wasn't like she was keeping it a secret either. And she wanted to make it a point to say that she kept calling back was a lie. And she says that she never said don't put Martel, or she never said to Mel, put Martel on the effing phone, but she did say put Martel on the phone. But she wanted to, for some reason, make it known that she didn't say the curse word. And I'm just like, but you said it. So what am I supposed to be doing with this? Like, you're basically confirming that Mel said what she said. And so then she says on that particular call, she didn't know at the time that allegedly Mel was there, as well as Mel's mom, as well as Martel, and they were having some type of conversation about his cheating or whatever. And Arionne claims that she was on a date with another man and she was moving on. But if you're on a date with another man and you're moving on, why would you call back Martel? And why would you have his wife that answered and ask her to put Martel on the phone if you moved on? Another lie. So anyways, she kept saying, that she was calling his phone and that, she only called a few times or whatever. But then she says later in the interview that Martel did all of the calling. That Martel was the one that initiated all the phone calls. But you just admitted here that you made phone calls. So that's another lie. And so then from there, Tasha K saying, a wife would say this is disrespectful in terms of, this conversation and, somebody's side chick basically saying to put their husband on the phone. And so then Arionne says, oh, well, Martel just said that she shouldn't talk to her or whatever. And, then Tasha K reiterated, you want what the wife had and this and that. And, again, wanted to reword her being a mistress and not a side dish. And then she asked her if she's ever spoken to Mel. And so she claims that she spoke to Mel about a situation, about some friend's car from college, and wanted to know if Mel had something to do with it. And she spoke to Mel about it, and Mel had no idea what she was talking about. I felt like that particular example was probably an excuse Arionne had to just talk to Mel, because it was too out of left field to just randomly call Melody Holt about something like that. Like, that just was completely out of nowhere. And so then, like I said earlier, she said that, to Martell, if he's so unhappy to leave Melody, but he claimed to never say leave her. like this is what I mean. It was just the ignorance and the stupidity for me. She kept trying to say that she was trying to leave Martell, but he wouldn't let her go. And I'm sorry, if you really wanted to be done with Martell, you would have been done. You would have changed your phone number. You would have ignored his calls. You would have ignored his advances if he tried to come to your home. You would have had things in place, or you would have already been moved back to Ohio if, you really were done with this whole situation. But there was a part of you that thought you were going to get on the show at some point. There was a part of you that thought you and Martell were going to be a power couple like he was with Melody Holt. And that's why you stuck around. And that's why you kept doing all of this mess for 3 years. And now that there's nothing for you to show for it, you finally do a sit down tell all. And so then Tasha K is asking, okay, was this about love or convenience? And so, again, Arionne's trying to claim she wasn't in this for the lifestyle, that Martell was good to her. He always helped her out. Then she claims with Knox that it just kind of happened that they were pregnant, and that she was pregnant 2 other times. That the first time was a miscarriage, the second time was an abortion that Martell paid for, and that Martell asked her to get an abortion for Knox as well. And that she was pregnant at the same time Melody was, with Melody and Martell's 3rd child. So, and then she says that Martell has a good way with words, and one of the times she quote unquote was done with Martell, he showed up on his knees at her apartment, and since she was in love with him, she wasn't trying to have him come in, but then once she looked into his eyes on his knees, she brought him in and, just stares at him and just melts her heart. And I'm like, there's nothing romantic about this. And so then Tasha K was trying to ask if Mel and Martell had some sort of compromise, regarding this situation where he can have both Arionne and Melody. And that didn't even make sense to me. Why would Melody want to have a compromise and be in an entanglement when she's the wife? Like what are we talking about, Tasha? And so then she was asking, whether or not, they were going to stay together or not. And so she was then talking about how Martell told her that he was not going to choose between her or Melody, and then tried to come for Melody for staying 3 more years. But then if Martell also told you that he was not going to choose between you and Melody, why did you stick around for more years and have a baby with them? Like, why the smoke for the wife and no smoke for you is what I want to know. So then Arionne goes into the whole, me and Martell, we're both damaged people. That's part of the reason that we're not together right now. And, the reason she's not with him is because she can't separate from what's reality and what's on TV, and how Martell tries to tell her what is or isn't edited on the show. And, basically that there's a different narrative that plays every Saturday. Even though she claims to not watch the show, she seems to be aware of everything that's being said on the show. So again, another lie. Then she claims that, Martell told her that the show was about real estate, and that the callback from the producers, they were supposed to be, him and Melody were supposed to be getting a divorce, but the production told them to fake it. And at the time she was in nursing school, during all of this, so she wasn't allegedly paying attention to what was happening on the show the first couple of seasons. But somehow she was very much aware, everything that was talked about regarding the affair, and claims that she had no clue publicly what was happening. And I just don't believe it. because she claims that she should have said something a long time ago, but she has been trying to say things. She outed herself on Instagram saying, this is who you've been looking for, or you've been looking for me. She wanted to be out there. She wanted the spotlight. She wanted this exposure. So she's full of it. And so then she said she's upset. The nerve of these people, because she has a false narrative about her and her likeness. I'm sorry, Arionne, you're not a celebrity, so what likeness are you talking about? Really? Really? And, Tasha K is trying to, get back a hold of this interview because it's just completely off track. Basically saying that Martel did have an affair, that he did call you, a peasant, and that you were Arionne or whatever. And so, she's like, yeah, I'm Arionne from Dayton. And, she said that her friends and family were upset and allegedly see his actions differently than what's being on the show, what's being portrayed on the show. And Tasha K is like, didn't your family and friends just tell you to leave him alone? Like, you're not married. Like, why deal with all of this? And so then Arionne says once more that she grew up in a 2-parent household when really she grew up with a single mom. But it basically said that she had examples in her family of her grandparents and their brothers and sisters, like 9 or 10 of them, all being married for several years and decades long. However, she doesn't have respect for marriages until now in 2022. So that is what we're dealing with. You had positive examples in your grandparents and your different great aunts and uncles being married for decades around you, but you didn't feel that was good enough to respect marriages. So until you slept with a married man yourself is essentially what you're saying. And so, then Tasha K is trying to sell what the appeal would be for Martel, how he's older, how he's established, and how it could be understandable that, a vulnerable single mother like Arionne could be attracted to that. And, she called, it was funny when Tasha K called Martel a teenage mutant ninja turtle and that she wasn't into caramel men, she was only into chocolate men. And Arionne's like, well, I just find him attractive. I think he's a very attractive man, and he's attractive to me. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. And so, Arionne claims that she's living her life and that she never had expectations of Martel to be her husband. And so basically Tasha K was like, well, what was your goal? Like, what was your goal out of all this? If you're fine being a side chick for 6 or 7 years, if you were not hoping that he left his wife and that you became the wife, and you bragged online about stealing a married man, but then you say in this interview that no married man can be stolen. So it's just like, I just couldn't take the lies. I couldn't take the lies and the hypocrisies, because literally everything she said, I could think of the exact live, the exact comment, the exact interview she did elsewhere where she said the complete and utter opposite. And I was just so sick of her lying. So then Tasha K wanted to know if Martel ever spent the night with Arionne. And, Arionne then revealed that they started out long distance since she lived originally in Ohio, and that the longest time they spent together was for 4 days. And so then Tasha K asked her, and this was a layup question. She asked her, okay, did Martel ever talk to Melody in front of you? And Arionne says no. And so then Tasha K was like, okay, but if he's gone for 4 days and he's a married man, he's going to have to talk to his wife and kids at some point. He's not just going to go MIA for 4 days. And so then she was like, well, yeah, he did talk to them. He did check in with them. But you just said that he didn't do that in front of you. But obviously he would have had to if he had spent a weekend that was like 4 days long with you. Like, another lie. Like, I just couldn't take it anymore. So then, Tasha K asked if Martel was ever worried about being seen in public with his side dish, since he was now in the public eye being on a TV show. And, Arionne claims that no, that he doesn't mind if they're together and pics her video. Then how come we haven't seen that, Arionne? How come you're hidden? How come Martel's hidden whenever you guys are quote unquote out and about together? Why hasn't Martel ever showed you on his page? Why isn't there a family picture of you, Martel, and Knox? You seem still pretty hidden to me, but you still seem to be only obsessed with being mad at Melody and Oprah and not mad at your baby's father, because he's the one that's keeping you hidden still, not us. So then Tasha K wanted to bring up about the picture that was dropped recently of, Marceau, Maurice, Earl, and Martel, and what happened that night. And now Arionne saying she was the one that took the picture, and Tasha K wants to know, okay, what happened this night? What is the truth? And, normally if this is a situation where a group of married men, somebody's bringing one side piece, that it's kind of a known amongst the group that they could bring theirs as well, because obviously if their wife were there, they would tell Melody, of course, what was going on. And so she point blank period asked Arionne, did she see the married men with other women? And she said yes. And then she wanted to shade the women and call them linebackers and, basically say that they were overweight, that they were stocky, that they were big, that they weren't attractive, like basically trying to, insult their looks. But it's like, you're a side chick just like them. So what does their looks have to do with anything? Like, you guys are all on the same boat. This was a side chick retreat weekend with married men. Like, why do you feel you needed to elevate your looks in comparison to them when you guys were all there for the same thing, which was to hook up with married men? Like, it just seemed completely unnecessary. And this is what I mean about somebody who's immature, somebody who's uncouth, who's disrespectful. Like, what does the girls, being overweight or not looking a certain way have to do with anything? The fact of the matter is, whether they were cute or not, Marceau and Maurice were also being unfaithful to their wives, just like Martel was. Who cares about what the side chick looks like? Like, seriously, that's what we're doing? Like, that's what we're doing. So she said that they rented out an Airbnb in Atlanta. And then for some reason, Arionne was asking Martel what Maurice and Marceau's wives looked like for some reason, because she didn't think that those would be their types and, didn't know their names. And she said that she never wanted to put out them, she never wanted to out Maurice or Marceau, but she's been saying for years that everybody cheated on this show. This isn't new information. Arionne's been saying it. She's claiming that everything just came ahead this season. That all of a sudden, her name just was out there, which they don't even say her name. But she claims for some reason that, this avalanche of all this stuff was all about her. And, now all of a sudden she wants revenge and she wants to out everybody. Like, it was just very bizarre. And so she, kept saying she's getting dragged. Well, yeah, you're getting dragged. You slept with a married man. Oh, you wanted somebody to clap for you or give you sympathy? Really? That's not how it works. So then I got pissed because, Tasha K is going on about how this has been 3 years on the show. And then she calls Arionne an innocent casualty of war. And I was like, what? This is not an innocent casualty. This woman told you from the start she knew Martel was married. And she knew Martel was married before she got intimate with him and still chose to be intimate with him. And not only that, also have a baby by him and get pregnant 2 other times by him. So there's no innocence in any of this. And then I had a problem because, Tasha K kept on saying that Arionne was credible, and Arionne kept saying that she never destroyed a marriage. And it's like, well, obviously, if this 6 or 7 year affair didn't happen, it definitely was a contributor. I'm sure it was a contributor to the marriage being destroyed. This is humiliating, embarrassing, and disrespectful and disturbing. And so Arionne wanted to claim, oh, nothing was destroyed until they got a, until they got a divorce or whatever. But it was just too much. And then Tasha K tried to say that she was a pacifier for Martel. And, does she feel that she got everything that she got out of this? And, she got, the good conversation material things. And, she wanted to make a point to say that she's always working. And that Martel made it easy so that she didn't have to struggle. And so she basically says that she got everything out of it, but she just doesn't like the public humiliation. Newsflash, nobody that's the side chick ever gets publicly praised. I don't know what planet delusion Arionne is on, but there's no such thing as a side chick receiving some sort of applause or some type of sympathy or empathy or anything. I don't know where she thinks that was going to happen for her. So then she claims, that she obviously loves Knox. She's grateful she had him. And that the reason that she went through with the pregnancy with Knox is because she had just had an abortion a short time ago and didn't want another abortion right after. And, basically said that Martel wanted her to have a second one and this and that. And so then they try to go back to the Atlanta trip with, Maurice and Marcel. And this was like another thing that irritated me about the interview is like they got off track so many times about nonsensical, minor details of things instead of sticking to the facts and sticking to what the actual issues at hand were. That I just couldn't take it seriously. And so it's like we go into a whole spiel about what it meant to be a linebacker as opposed to talking about what actually took place at the event where you took this picture, they rented this Airbnb. Like, why didn't we just stay there? And we had to go all the way back around in a circle to come back to this. So then she's asking, if all of them had different women there, and Arionne said yes, and that they obviously weren't their wives. Then Tasha K asks if they shared bedrooms with these ladies. And so then Arionne wants to, play semantics. Well, I can't say that they shared bedrooms, but, you can read between the lines and see why they were all there. If we were all there at the same Airbnb. And it's like, I was just so done. I just wanted to throw my phone at the TV. Like I had it. Like I had it with this interview because I was like, what is she talking about? Like, seriously, it's not, oh my gosh, it's not rocket science. Like, seriously, Arionne, you knew what was going on. You guys are all there in an Airbnb. You guys are all side chicks. You guys all obviously have different bedrooms. And I'm sure for the most part, there's at least 2 bedrooms that are usually near each other. So you knew what was happening. Don't do that. And then just kept calling them linebackers and, calling them names and this and that. And it just wasn't appropriate. And Arionne claims she didn't see what their wives looked like until, they appeared on TV. And so then Tasha K gives her a portion, to say, oh, is there anything you'd like to say or address to the camera? And to face the camera and say what you want to say. And so then Arionne says that she would like the producers to spin the story elsewhere, and that if she is not on the show, to stop using the story for her likeness. And they don't even say your name, Arionne, so what are you talking about? And, says that her life has changed, and in a lot of ways it hasn't changed for the better, and that now it's quote unquote personal between her and Oprah, Oh, so now you're going to come for billionaire Oprah. Okay, got it. All right. So you wanted to be on this show on Oprah Winfrey's network if you were able to quote unquote tell your side, but because you don't like the way that your affair with a married man is being exposed, now it's personal with Oprah. All right. You're never seeing the show, by the way. Never happening. And then she goes into, I was raised, with growing up and looking up to Oprah as this influential black woman. And, I'm just disappointed in her that, she owns a network that's turning, black women against each other. And I was proud to look up to her. And she wants people to stop using her and making it seem as though she ruined a family. Well, you didn't help build a family, so what do you want to call it, Arionne? Like, what do you want to call it? And then she claims that her likeness is carrying the weight of 6 individuals. Seriously? No, it's not. There's actually other things going on with the 6 main stars of the show. If you watched it, which you claimed that you didn't. But there is actual storylines that are going on. But you sleeping with a married man, and having a baby with a married man, I don't know what planet you thought that was never going to be on the show. So then she claims that, this has to stop and that there's lots of behind the scenes that people don't know about, and that Melody had a hairstylist and friends come to her home, but nothing happened. And it's like, after this interview, I mean, does anybody have issues at this point if Mel's hairstylist or friend show up at Arionne's place? Because Arionne didn't say one nice thing about Mel this entire interview. And Mel and Martel have been divorced, and she still couldn't say one nice thing about the lady. So you're continuing to be disrespectful and antagonizing the wife, and being immature is the reason why people continue to drag you. And so then she tries to play like Melody always calls her. Arionne then tries to say, oh, your husband's cheating and doing this and that. You don't need to come for me. You need to be checking your husband, because I didn't pursue him. He's pursuing a relationship with me. And it's like, you're married. There's no relationship. It's just sex. Like, that's all it is. And she's trying to make this into more than what it was, and it's not. And so then she, Tasha K obviously is saying how this was convenient for both of them, and there wasn't drama. And then Tasha K, then tries to say that Melody's a victim of her circumstances, and Arionne wants to jump in and says that she's a victim too. You're a victim of what? What are you a victim of? You were an adult woman who knew in advance that Martell Holt was a married man, and you still chose to have an affair with him. So what were you a victim of? You were a grown woman that knew exactly what you were doing. You were bragging on social media. You were bragging to your friends about being with a married man and the money that he was spending on you. Well, Melody's money that he was spending on you at the time. And you liked antagonizing Melody because you liked this competition back and forth. And you wanted to be chose. And even now, you still aren't the chosen one. So then Tasha K keeps doing this woman-to-woman nonsense, and I just couldn't take her seriously because nothing in this interview portrayed Arionne as being a woman, as being an adult, as being mature. And then she, kept reiterating how she wanted there to be some sort of reconciliation between Arionne and Melody. And I laughed when Tasha K paused the interview to have one of her assistants get her phone to call Melody, because Arionne had a deer in the headlights look on her face, like she was scared to death if Mel got on the phone. And that right there told me all I needed to know, that this girl knew that a lot of what she was saying, if not all that she was saying, was a total lie and total BS. Because if you were confident in your truth and what you were saying, why would you be upset if Tasha K called Melody Holt right on the spot? Why would you care? If you know everything that you're saying is allegedly factual. And then it was funny because Arionne had got out her phone pretending to like text somebody, and I'm sure she's probably either texting Martel or texting somebody like, hey, Tasha K's about to call Melody, or she's about to say something to Melody, or this and that, because I never seen Arionne, her whole demeanor switch. She was terrified. And then when Tasha K was looking for her number, Arionne's like, well, no. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to hear what, she has to say or whatever. And Tasha K's all like, oh, she's not going to know about this. And I'm like, see, Tasha K, you're already doing way too much right now. So now you're just going to call Melody and not tell her that you're doing a live interview with the mistress. Like, that's what we're doing? And you don't think there won't be consequences? All right. And so then, Arionne kept saying that she wants to acknowledge her part to apologize, but she still doesn't want to apologize and doesn't want to say that she's sorry. And why does she feel the need to apologize? That the show is on the platform to tear her down and build another woman up. And I'm just confused, at what point does a side piece deserve to have this like beautiful reputation? Like, why the arrogance and the audacity for me? Like, why? Seriously? That's what we're doing? Claims that she's discussed every single episode of the show in a negative light. That's why I know you don't watch the show, because you have no idea what's going on. Because it's like, why would you say something like that? There's other storylines that are happening on the show. And newsflash, season 1 did talk about real estate. Like, I can't with the lies. I can't with the lies of her. So then she said that, basically they were saying that they're going to carry Arionne as a storyline until there's closure. And, they don't feel that. And then she tried to throw a jab at Mel that, oh, her likeness isn't good enough to carry the show on her own. And it's like, Mel brought the show to Carlos King. This is Mel's baby. Her and Martell Holt are executive producers. And so she claims that she doesn't want to ever talk to Mel or reach out to her, and that she wants to leave everything in the hands of Martel, who easily brainwashes her. And Tasha K's asking, you don't want to ever get along with Melody in the event that your kids need to get together. And she's like, well, the kids one day will be old enough to have a relationship. Are they really going to have a relationship if you're bashing their mother every single turn, really? You think Knots is going to go up and respect you as well with how you're behaving? Really? Because all of this is going to be on, YouTube forever. So then she claims, oh, I'll apologize if Mel apologized. So basically, there's not going to be an apology. And then I had an issue with both Tasha and Arionne because they both try to come for Melody about her releasing songs that are quote unquote about Arionne to capitalize off of. First of all, Telltale Signs and Side Chick Award are not just songs solely about Arionne. They are songs about women who have dealt with similar situations, whether they were in a relationship or a marriage, and their man cheated on them, and or cheated on them and got their side chick pregnant. That's what the songs are about. Like how Beyonce made Lemonade and said Becky with the good hair and called out Jay-Z's cheating. So it's not just about a particular person. Several women have dealt with this. Several women have dealt with infidelity. And then I had an issue because Tasha K tried to say that Arionne won. What did she win? Because Martel's still not with her. And so, essentially, she doesn't want to make peace with Mel. She thinks that she is being discussed on the show on purpose, but she doesn't seem to connect in her brain that had she not slept with Martel, who is married to the person who created the show, who's also an EP, that you would never be mentioned on the show. And then I had a problem with Tasha K kept saying that Arionne would be married one day. How is somebody who is bragging about the fact that they slept with a married man for 6 and 7 years they think that all of a sudden they're going to be somebody's wife, that they're wife material. And it's funny because she claims that, oh, well, she's not sure if she wants to be married because she doesn't like that black men cheat. However, you had no problem partaking in an affair with a black man who was cheating. I just can't. Like, the lack of self-awareness in this interview was astounding to me. So then they wanted to talk about Melody and whether or not she allegedly cheated on Martel. And Arionne wanted to brag, oh yeah, Martel went back to me after that. He was going to leave me alone, but he went back to me because, Mel cheated. And so then she tried to say that Mel was with their attorney and that the phone had opened up and that they overheard Melody and the lawyer, and that the lawyer's fiance follows Arionne on Instagram. And then she wants to claim that Melody's friends came back to Martel saying that she was having sex with the attorney. And all of this is alleged because this didn't happen. Melody already said what did or didn't happen, that she was moved out, she had her own apartment, and she said what actually took place, and it wasn't sex. Then she wants to claim that this was in a pandemic and it was a false narrative and all this and that. And I'm like, Arionne, you don't even know the half. Like, you just don't. And so, Tasha K, was asking her about karma. She worried about karma and this and that. And so then this tidbit I found interesting. So Arionne now is trying to blame the show and is trying to come for the show because she said that she got sick of seeing the blurb that they were trying to get in touch with her and they couldn't. But then she told a lie because she said that the producers called her and told her to shut up about Maurice and Marceau's side women. That this was recently, like after the reunion, when she did that post. And, basically said that they told her that they wanted to see whether or not she can film. So if you just said that earlier that you can't be on the show, that Mel wasn't going to do the show, that if you ever film, then why was a producer getting in contact with you to film as it pertained to Marceau and Maurice cheating on their wives? So which is it? And that, and then Tasha K asked her, would she ever be interested on the show? And Arionne says she's been trying to tell her side for 3 years. And then she talked about, her and Martel filming a scene about, the DNA test. And she felt everything got distorted to make her look bad. And then she wanted a cookie, I guess, because she slept with Martel for 6 years, who's married, and wanted a cookie, I guess, because she didn't sleep with another man. That Martel was the only married man that she was sleeping with. So somehow that made her loyal. A loyal side chick, I guess. So that's where we are. And so she said that she didn't like how the DNA test was brought up because it made her seem like she's a hoe. But I mean, if the shoe fits, like, why? I mean, like, that right there should have told you what you're dealing with. If he has to ask you for a DNA test, that tells you what Martel thinks of you. Yet you keep romanticizing this guy. You still will not say one negative thing about him at all. But you continue to defame Oprah Winfrey and Melody Holt for some reason. So she wants to claim that the DNA test episode was the most watched episode. How would you know this if you don't watch the show? And then, like I had said previously, she claims that Mel won't film the show if Arionne films. So that should tell you right then and there, Arionne, that they do not think you are profitable. They don't think you are marketable. They do not think you are useful at all to give you a platform on the show. Because it tells me more how much they value Mel and Melody Holt, since this is her show. And so then Arionne also talks about production, how they wanted Martel to go out on a date back in August, and Martel allegedly asked production if he could go on the date with Arionne, and they said no. And that there was like another alleged phone conversation that was supposed to be filmed for the reunion, that they said no, and that, you know, she felt it was ridiculous or something. And I'm just like, if they wanted you on the show, you would be on the show. Because Carlos King is not above mess. But if he wanted you on the show, you'd be on the show. But the problem is, he already said in an interview that everyone would have to be on board. And if they haven't been on board for the past 3 years, why would they be on board now? And why would Marceau and Maurice agree for you to be on the show now? It's never going to happen. I'm not seeing it. And so now she claims that because of this, because of her behavior of sleeping with a married man and her not being able to take the heat and handle being dragged, she feels that that stole her joy from nursing, and she can't work as a nurse, and she can never finish nursing school to ever become a nurse and take her nursing boards and everything else. And I just started laughing. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious right now? One thing has nothing to do with the other. And so then Tasha K tried to hype up her boutique or her online clothing line or whatever. And, she claimed that she wanted to do this prior to nursing school and that she's dealing with so much trauma. And this is like the 20th time I have heard Arionne say that she's writing a book that allegedly now is supposed to come out this spring, but she said a few years ago that she was writing a book that was supposed to come out. And then said she doesn't want to tell the title because she doesn't want a Melody to make a song about her. Are you serious right now? I want to see if this book comes out. I want to see about that. How about that? And so then she says that her and Melody did have an in-person conversation at like 2 a.m. at somebody's house and talked about Martel, but didn't really disclose the details of that conversation. And then claims that if Mel were to call her now, that she's not going to say anything. And she just wants Oprah's network to be done discussing her because she doesn't like it. And she claims that she never spoke about the wives of the other husbands on the show. And, she hasn't said anything until now because they're discussing her. And I'm just like, you're on one. And she's like, can't they talk about something else? Like, you have a singer on the show. Kimmy's a nurse. Like, they can't talk about that. And it's like, are you serious right now? Like, they do talk about that. And I just had a problem because they kept calling Arionne credible, and there was just so many lies in this interview. There was so much double talking. There was so much ignorance that it was like there's nothing credible that's happening. And so, essentially she's saying obviously she probably wasn't the first woman. And then she made this statement, don't be an Arionne Curry. Don't, be with somebody for 6 years and have nothing to show for it. And it's like, well, that's your dumb self. like, I mean, like, that's your dumb self that you have nothing to show for it. That even now you still don't have the man. And then again, she still wanted to hype up Martel, that he's a good man, that he's a good person, that the show is not the Martel that she knows. And then Tasha K asked if she would marry Martel, and she's like, well, Martel needs counseling. And so she said, well, that's not a no. And Arionne's like, well, it's not a yes. And she was like, but it's not a no either. So it was just a hot mess express. She claims that she is a one-woman gal. You mean you're a one-man female? Because a one woman would mean a one-woman man. Like the song by Dave Hollister. One-woman man. How about that? Google it. But again, it was just the ignorance for me. It was just the ignorance. And it was funny when Arionne said that, because then Tasha K got her digging, oh, but you don't mind your man sharing. And that was that. And then Tasha K claims that there's some exclusive behind the scenes nonsense on her app. I was too agitated with the time I wasted in this interview to even be interested in anything that is happening additional with Arionne. I think this is horrible. And it's funny because they're filming season 4 of Love and Marriage Huntsville now. So they're going to actually be the ones to make a profit off of this, because they'll basically just have production ask Martell and Melody Holt for comment, and ask Kimmy and Maurice and Marceau and Tasha what they feel their comment, their reaction is to this interview. But they'll make it a point to make sure that Arionne is nowhere on that show. But they will reference this interview because she put their, try to put them out there. And she keeps talking about them. And I hope they play the clip about her saying it's personal between her and Oprah. I hope that makes season 4 too. I really hope so. But yeah, like I said, this interview was a hot mess express on both sides. I felt Tasha K was unprofessional. I felt Tasha K wanted to butter up Arionne to make her seem like, a side chick should be celebrated, that she needs to be elevated to being respected as a mistress. And it's like, there's nothing respectable about this. And it doesn't matter if it happens 1 time or 6 years. There's still no level of respect in sleeping with the married man. And I was just confused because I thought Tasha K was married herself. So I was just confused as to why you are trying to present this lady in a bow. Like, did you and Funky Geneva have like a conference call before this interview? Because it just felt very shady. It just felt like you were trying to repackage her. You were trying to remarket Arionne to make her seem palpable to the audience. Do you know how much the audience is going to leave if Arionne ever shows her face on this show? Do you know how much the ratings are going to plummet if Arionne is ever on this show? Do you know the demographics of this show? Because it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. And all this time of Arionne talking about, and now I know why she did this interview, because she still can't get a TV show. Because if she was able to get a TV show by now, she would have been quiet. But she keeps doing these little threats on Instagram. She keeps doing these little interviews with other bloggers. And then this tell-all where she really told us nothing, just told me everything I needed to know. That she is not worth the time to even have a film crew around her. But I am glad that this is over so that we do not have to address this again. Because if all Arionne has to talk about is Melody Holt, then there's no reason for her to be on the show anyways. Because she can't seem to get Melody Holt's name out of her mouth. Even though Melody is long gone from Martel, she's long divorced Martel, Arionne is obsessed with Melody and has nothing bad to say about Martel at all, which I find very disturbing and brainwashed, and she needs deprogrammed. So that is all that I have. I wanted to do a thorough and detailed breakdown of this hot mess of an interview because I just wanted to be done with it. And I just wanted to hear what lies were going to come out, what BS was going to try to be put into a bow. And now that we have all of it, we can just dish it out in one fell swoop and move forward. So let me know your guys' thoughts. Let me know whether or not you guys watched this interview. Let me know what you guys think of what lies that were spewing out in the horrible questions that were asked and the horrible interviewing, and lack of follow-up questions, and trying to dress up Arionne as like some princess. Like, it was just disgusting and disturbing. But let me know your thoughts. If it is your first time viewing my channel, welcome. Please tune in to my playlist and see some of my other reaction videos and other videos I've discussed things on. Those of you who are back multiple times, thank you so much for your continued support. I am grateful. I'm thankful for each and every single one of you. I love interacting with each and every single one of you. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you are notified the instant that I post new content to my page. And with that being said, Happy New Year, you guys. I will talk to you guys again soon. Now this Hot Mess Express is over. We can actually enjoy 2022. How about that?